This is the Valley Today.
We start this hour with breaking news out of the Southern Valley, a search for a missing child. Firefighters in Colfax, North Dakota are confirming there was a search for a missing child near that Richland County town overnight. We are not able to confirm right now if that search is over yet or what the outcome was, but we are working to get those details. New this morning, 2 men are hurt after being attacked by a camel at a central Minnesota zoo. The owner of Hemker Park Zoo near Freeport was leading the animal through an alley yesterday when it bit down on the man's head and then dragged him about 15 feet. Another employee rushed to the man and freed him, but then the camel turned on the other guy. The owner of the zoo was airlifted to a hospital. The other worker was not seriously hurt. The attack comes about 3 months after 2 people were attacked by and killed by a camel at a Tennessee petting zoo. A 4-year-old boy is dead after an ATV that he was driving rolled over in Morrison County, Minnesota. Sheriff's officials say that Steve Meyer of Pierce, Minnesota, lost control on a gravel road near the town of Buckman Tuesday afternoon and then flipped. A 6-year-old was also on that ATV. However, they jumped off the vehicle before the crash and was treated for cuts and bruises. Also new this morning, an elderly couple are seriously hurt after a motorcycle crash in southwest Minnesota. The State Patrol says an 85-year-old man from Iowa was driving near Lakefield last night and then crashed into a ditch. His 85-year-old passenger was also hurt. Both of their injuries are considered life-threatening. 6:02 now on this Thursday morning. Let's get a check of your forecast. The sun is rising and sun's going to bring some heat with it over the next couple of days, Lisa.
Yes, be ready for the heat. It's starting up today. You're going to notice the humidity coming in with the heat wave, and temperature is a little warmer even out there this morning. Our view looking pretty though in our Luther Family Ford Skycam in South Fargo. 62 degrees in Fargo. It's 61 in Grand Forks, 64 in Jamestown. Yesterday, most of us dropped into the 50s. And so now more of us are in the 60s this morning, so 5-10 degrees warmer than yesterday. Bemidji is one of the cooler spots, 56 there, and it's 63 in Fergus Falls and 66 in Devil's Lake. So with the heat is going to be a chance for some rain and some thunder today. And that might kind of hold back our temperatures just a little bit today before the real intensity of that heat builds in for the rest of the forecast. So be ready for some clouds to move in as the morning goes along, and then eventually that chance for some rain and thunder. You could see some of these showers, some thunder showers north of the border to the west, and these will be moving into places like Devil's Lake and Jamestown first around midday or so, and then continuing eastward here. Afternoon chances for rain and thunder looking not as intense as what we may end up seeing for tonight. Later this evening and into the overnight, we have a chance for some severe weather. So here's a look at the forecast. We in Fargo are likely to see that chance for some storms in the second part of the day, more into the later afternoon and again into the late night hours. If you are farther west, it may be starting up a little sooner around midday. Our temperatures back into some upper 80s, feeling more humid out there, and the wind out of the south, it'll be steady in the teens, but gusts will get higher. So a little breeze as that warmer, more humid air is working its way into the valley starting today. Now again, the intense part of this heat starting up for Friday. We've declared a first alert weather day because we just want to give you that heads up that this is when you're going to want to take those extra precautions starting tomorrow with the heat wave beginning there. We're talking temperatures around 90 degrees, but that muggy factor, that leads to heat index values that are even higher, what it feels like to be outdoors in these kind of temperatures. And in that 100-degree range could start up as soon as tomorrow, and that has some serious health impacts, especially for those who are vulnerable. So we'll be talking more about this, the duration of the heat wave that we're expecting, and getting into more detail on that severe weather threat, all coming up in just a bit.
Yeah, very serious things right now, Lisa. Thank you. 6:04 now. Inflation has soared at its fastest pace in over 4 decades. The Consumer Price Index is up 9.1% since last year. That's the highest mark since 1981. Costs have surged for energy, gas, food, rent, and dental care, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Nearly half of that increase was attributed to higher fuel and energy cost. Dozens of people gathered outside Fargo City Hall last night in support of abortion rights. Organizers say the recent Roe v. Wade ruling that allowed states to ban abortions is all about controlling women. Last night's event was part of the national Bands Off Our Bodies walkout. A North Dakota farmer spots a missing 18-year-old 17 miles from where she disappeared. The Grand Forks County Sheriff says Haley Sullivan was found yesterday afternoon walking away from a campground on the Grand Forks Air Force Base. The night before, the sheriff says that she took off on foot sometime between Monday and Tuesday morning. She then climbed a fence, however, was found in a farm near Gilby.
Some people think we can do it all. We know we can't. And when we have people that know the area and know their way around and where to look, it is just substantial resource for us, and that's what helps us get this outcome. I mean, if it wasn't for that farmer in that field, we don't know when we would have been able to find her.
Sullivan was checked out by doctors and then reunited with her family. The family of a man killed in an officer-involved shooting in South Fargo on Friday had the chance to ask the state attorney general questions about the investigation. Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney says he invited Shane Netterville's brothers to meet with Drew Wrigley and Fargo's police chief. Mahoney says last Friday's events were a tragedy for the entire community. A young man's family is grieving an immeasurable loss of a cherished family member. The mayor also says that police officer Adam O'Brien and his family are coping with the traumatic event and the lasting impact it will have on both families involved. 2 people were arrested after running from Moorhead and Fargo police and then crashing their pickup. Fargo officers spotted a vehicle just after midnight yesterday that had gotten away from Moorhead PD earlier in the evening. Police say the driver would not pull over and was driving recklessly and then crashed into a guardrail. 2 people then got out and took off running. Kevin Basswood of Ponsford, Minnesota, and Abby Telehusen of Moorhead were arrested a short time later. Basswood faces charges of reckless endangerment, driving a stolen vehicle, and drug possession. Telehusen had warrants out of Clay, Cass, and Becker counties. Several people are hurt after someone lit a large firework and then tossed it inside of a movie theater in Eagan, Minnesota. It happened Tuesday night. Police are still looking for that suspect.
In the dark, you're thinking gunshots, you're hoping for the best, but you're just praying for your life.
The incident comes just days after last week's chaotic 4th of July night in Minneapolis, where people were shooting off fireworks in the streets for hours. A 60-year-old man is hurt after crashing his hang glider into Clear Lake near Mankato. The pilot was the only one on that aircraft at the time. Some fishermen then got him out of the glider before that man was airlifted to a hospital. No word on why it went down. The retention ponds in West Fargo may be enticing for recreational use, but the West Fargo Fire Department is reminding people that's not what they're meant for. Valley News Team's Nishay Taylor explains why those retention ponds are not safe to use.
You drive by them and they look like they're a pond that's a feature for like an amenity in a neighborhood.
West Fargo Fire Chief Dan Fuller says don't be fooled by the beauty of those retention ponds in your neighborhood.
They do look very nice, but really it's handling all that runoff from these streets, all the impervious surfaces here. So you've got oil and pesticides, you've got all sorts of trash and all sorts of stuff that goes down the gutter.
Chief Fuller says not only is the water quality bad, but it can be dangerous as pumps in the ponds can create a current.
So there's giant culverts with big grates in front of them, and that's in case something or someone actually gets in the pond and gets sucked up against that grate from that pump pulling.
Over the last 2 years, Chief Fuller says there hasn't been an increase in complaints or injuries involving the use of a retention pond, but they say their warning is just to avoid another incident like in 2018, where a young boy drowned after falling into a retention pond.
Make sure that they know what it is, that it's not for play.
Here's how to help if someone ever gets caught in the pond. Call 911 immediately. And if you are not a certified lifeguard, do not go in after them. Instead,
throwing a rope out to them, throwing a life preserver out to them, or trying to reach them with a long pole or something like that to pull them back into shore.
In West Fargo, Nishay Taylor, Valley News Live.
Fuller says their biggest concern with keeping people off retention ponds are during the winter because when the ice forms on that pond, it can cause an even greater safety risk. Still to come this Thursday morning, a new window to the world with implantable contact lenses. But next, our world is heating up here. In fact, there's a first alert weather day declared for the end of this week. Lisa Green is in with what you need to know to stay safe.